welcome. Welcome to our travel tips webinar. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Shelly Brander. I'm the founder of KnitStars, the world's leader in online inspiration and learning and documentaries for knitters and crocheters. And welcome. All right. Hey, Beth. So we're going to be really busy in the chat today. So go ahead and open up the chat and let me know where you're watching from. Or maybe let me know if you have a trip planned where you're headed to next. Hey, Natalie, good to see you. Yay, North Dakota. All right, let me know where you guys are. All right, let's see y'all coming to the chat. We had thousands of people sign up for this webinar. So oh wow, there it goes. So I'm pretty sure we hit a nerve with this topic. And first, I just want to say good job for showing up today, for taking a little time for yourself for this webinar, because I know we are all super busy, especially as makers, and it's hard to make that time. So good job carving out the next hour. We are going to have a blast, and I have loaded this thing up with tons of tips that I think you guys will I'm hoping you'll find really helpful. They all come from 10 years of traveling for KnitStars, filming our almost 100 masterclasses all over the world I was counting up last night, it was like 5 continents and a couple dozen countries. It's wild. So I have learned a lot, and I learned a bunch even just last week when I was filming season 9 around the Northeast. And I learned all the time, and I want to share as much as I can with you so you can get the maximum amount of Yarnie joy out of your traveling. All right, I have a little tip for you. If you have other people in the household or pets or both, put a little sticky note on your door and say out of office for the next hour so you can enjoy this time just for you. If you're knitting or crocheting something, feel free to share that in the chat as well. And as always, when we do a KnitStars thing, we like to have fun and extras. And so we're going to have some surprises. I'm going to have a free pattern for you. Hint, hint. We're going to have 2 prizes, and how we give away prizes in KnitStars world is always by the chat. So keep it exciting in there. The more you comment, the better your chances. We'll have 2 prizes, one kind of in the middle, one towards the end. And my awesome team that's on here with me will pick one at random. So the more you engage, the better your chances. They're both great prizes. They're right here next to me, and I'll show you here in a bit. And yeah, so that's what's about to go down. This webinar is going to be maybe a little different if you've ever been on a webinar before. So let me share how that's going to go. We've got some slides to share with you. Here we go. Sunny is behind the scenes helping get this all set up. I've got a lot of slides to share with you. So this webinar is going to be a little different than past webinars. And first thing is, it's going to be real talk, guys. This is not going to be one of those fancy, shiny travel blog situations. It's real talk from my real house here in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. And I'm going to be sharing the good, the bad, and the ugly, including my years of horror stories. I have had a number of horror stories, some as recently as the last couple trips for this season, traveling around, and I want to share this with you. I also have developed my personal system. It is actually a system developed and tweaked over the years for how I pack. Always yarn first, of course, right? And my actual bags, how my whole system works that makes it really easy and seamless for me to get around the world. So you're going to get a whole bunch of tips and hacks that you can just put to use right away. So strongly recommend having a pen and paper handy because there's going to be a lot here to share. So you can do screenshots or have a pen and paper, but I've got a lot of slides to go through. I hope you're ready for it. I love this chat. It's going bananas. It's so fun. Let me see here. Who do we have? I should just have my glasses on. Going to Greece next month. All right. Yes, this is great. How fun. We will save the chat too. And we will do a limited time recording for everybody who was here. So because y'all showed up today, I am going to have a special webinar only offer just for you. So if you have not yet jumped on the season 9 premiere bandwagon, every year we produce a whole new season of documentaries and masterclasses in different locations with new stars and topics around the world. Season 9 is open right now. And if you have not, raise your hand in the chat. Let me know if you're already on. I know there's a lot of people here probably that already signed up for season 9, but I know there's a lot that aren't. And I want to tell you a little bit about that experience. I'll tell you a little bit more later. But for now, if you're a quick start like me, you can go straight to knitstars.com/shine and join the premiere experience. I've got a coupon code for you that's a limited time, but it's Emma Glows after one of our stars whose workshop is just about to release. That'll save you $20. And we're doing something new this year. We're releasing workshops early because everybody asked for more time. We usually release them all in November, like every couple of days. This year, we decided to start dropping them early so people could have longer to enjoy them. In NidStars, you own them forever, but it's like created a better, I feel like, group experience. And so when you join, if you join now, you're going to get instant access to Carol Feller's reversible cable workshop, which is awesome and filmed on location in Cork, Ireland. Carol's amazing. The feedback's been huge. And then Emma Facio's workshop is just about to drop, and you're going to get access to that. It drops tomorrow as early access for this month. And then coming up is Hazel Tyndall, filmed on site in Shetland. So we're going to have early releases every month and then release the bulk of them in one big final premiere towards the end of the year, but giving everybody more time. And just because you showed up today, I've got one extra bonus, two extra bonuses, and that is, as we look through all of this, there is so much good information. I didn't want it to get lost. And so if you join during this webinar hour, if you join season 9 and use that link and that coupon, I will send you our PDF of the whole slide deck. And also I made a handy dandy. I was like, there's so much here. It's a lot of slides. I made a quick and easy checklist that, well, I have in my hands and I'll show you in a bit, but it's a one pager that you can use over and over and over as you're packing for your trip, just to give you a little more organization. And it's got a lot of cool features. I just put that together yesterday. So if you already own season 9, if you're already on and in for it, we'll make sure and find a way to get it out to you. So don't worry, you will not miss out on that. So that's what's up. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump in to our slides. So this is the one thing I want you to remember. First off, yarn should make your trip easier, not harder. I think sometimes we put so many goals and pressure on ourselves to make, and we can get in that kind of toxic productivity mode. Yarn and creativity should enhance your trip, not take away. And I know it can feel like really stressful packing as Yarnie for a trip because we have to pack our clothes, but we got to pack those projects and think all that through. And then everyone has this nightmare of what could go wrong in an airport or even in a car or train or whatever. So I have experienced a lot of that myself. I mean, and the reality is I can give you all the tips in the world, but at the end of the day, airport security, they have the power, and so do the airline personnel. Like, yes, it's true that TSA does allow, it's in writing, they do allow needles on the plane. However, when you go outside the US, outside of America, there's different rules in every country and even in different airports. And every once in a while, you get a kind of overzealous flight attendant, perhaps. One time I was flying into Tulsa, of all places, my hometown at the time, and the stewardess, flight attendant came up to me, and I was at a really intense part of the project. I was doing some lace and I was really focused, and she made me put them away immediately because she said that could be really dangerous. They could stab somebody if we got into rough air. And I wanted to argue, but I didn't. And I just quickly shoved stoppers on them and put them in my bag. The reality is they are in charge. So I'm going to give you all the best possible tips, but at the end of the day, you still have to do what they say and kind of be prepared to roll with the punches. But I'm going to arm you as best I can to be prepared for a seamless travel experience. So let's see, okay. Oh, this link, I went ahead and gave you this link. Now, Mandy on our team, she's an amazing researcher. And I said, Mandy, there has to be somewhere out there in the world, there has to be a resource where you can find exactly what the rules are at every security checkpoint, at every airport in every country in the world. And actually, I think it's $1 billion idea waiting to happen. We could not find it, but Mandy did find this amazing link, and it's going to be right here in this presentation. And Beth, I think, is going to put it in the chat. It'll probably go by pretty quick, but she can put it in a few times. This link will take you to all the current up-to-date regulations in America, Canada, Europe, much of the primary English language speaking world. There are links to this. So bookmark this little guy. It is a really handy catch-all link. It doesn't cover every continent or every situation, but it covers a lot. So hang on to that. That is a little gold nugget right off the bat. Okay. All right. So Yarn should make your trip easier, not harder. So I've broken this into 3 basic sections. This first one's the longest because it has subsections to it. So we're going to start out with how to pack. Are you guys ready? This is my system. It works great for me. It's honed week after week after week as I'm flying around the world. All right, number 1, how to pack. Let's start with a little story. So my number 1 personal rule is I do not check bags. That might be an unpopular opinion, but I make it work. And yes, I've been out of town 3 weeks and 5 different countries, and I make it work with carry-on and my little system. And here is why. In season 9 for Knit Stars, and some of you may know this story, it's somewhat legendary. So we were flying through Amsterdam, headed to film with Vera and Valinaki in Finland. Then from there, we were going on in very rapid Knit Star style to Norway to film with Arnie and Carlos. And from there with Crystal Seifarth in Denmark, and then on to Italy for just a little fun bit. And they lost our luggage in Schiphol, Amsterdam airport, which is one of the largest in the world. I bet a lot of you have been through there. Let me know in the chat if you've been in Schiphol before. There's tons of huge international flights go through there. And it is very difficult if they lose your luggage, which we found out. I thought when we had that horrific part where actually luckily Brad, our videographer, was with us, and the camera equipment made it. That has not always been the case in Knit Stars. So the huge $50,000 worth of camera equipment made it, but we just waited, and my daughter Mallory was with me, and our check bags never came off the luggage. You guys, if you've been in that situation, you know what it feels like. It's really like your heart sinks into your chest. And in my case, I did have hand knits. I did have yarn. I had all the kit and caboodle. I had all the underwear, everything was in that suitcase. And I learned along the way that the things I always have in my carry-on, I always have extra underwear and face wash. So anyway, we realized we weren't going to get the bags back, and it became very clear once we got to Finland that even if they caught the bags, they weren't going to catch up with us. So we found an H&M and we bought some bare minimum, and those clothes, we lived like basically 2 outfits in those bags we lived with for the entire trip. I had to borrow hand knits to wear on camera from each of my amazing stars, but that was our luggage, our H&M bags. So I see some great tips happening in the chat, by the way. That's awesome. We go back and mine those and maybe add them. So this was us in our H&M bags, and I made a vow to myself. Now, we did get our bags back at the end of the journey, but I made a vow I will never, ever, ever check bags ever again. And so this, if you're curious, now I'm going to show you how I make it work in just a carry-on. All right. So these are my bags. This is my bag system, and I've got a picture to show you how all the bags work next. This is where you might want to take some notes. So my carry-on, I've worked through a number of them over the years. My favorite, and by the way, there's no like paid promotion in any of this. These are just brands that I like. Nobody paid us for any of this, but just tips. I love away suitcases. I have found them super, super durable. I actually have a collection of 3. I have a really pretty one that's rose gold, but it's heavy, a little on the heavy side because it's like heavy metal. I have a hard shell light blue one that you saw in that first slide. That they have a larger carry-on size, but I have worked my way into my latest version, which is the normal carry-on size, just a little smaller, fits on every tiny plane that I've been on so far, like even the Delta. I'm a Delta girl, and even the Delta tiniest planes, I can get it on. And I have it in a unique color, which I think is important. Avoid black. So I have like a navy blue, and they have monogramming option. So I have that, and then I tie some bulky yarn in a bright color onto the handle so I can spy it if I get separated from it for some reason. Again, I don't check it, but that's a good tip especially if you check your bags. So I quickly can recognize it. Okay, so that's what there's somebody else who uses Away and Tumi. I love these Away bags. Someone convinced me years ago to switch from soft shell to hard shell. I was convinced the hard shell would not hold as much. I wouldn't be able to cram as much, but then these Away ones are kind of expandable, and I find they're perfect and they zip up really well. The zippers survive much better than other suitcases, et cetera, et cetera. Has some really cool features too. It has a way to kind of tamp down your clothes, and you'll see that here in a second. Now, my second bag that goes inside of my carry-on is my hanging toiletry bag. My daughter Mallory introduced me to these, and I'm obsessed. Like I cannot travel without one. It's so handy because I can hang it in a bathroom, no matter how small, in whatever city. I can hang it. I can find a place to hang it up. It's kind of out of the way. It keeps my stuff from jumbling and falling all into the sink and all of that. So I hate that when that happens. So I have a hanging toiletry bag, and theirs come with a liquids container, which is really important because here's the deal, y'all. In the United States, for the most part, they've gotten pretty chill about liquids. They do still want it in a small clear bag, but I have found it's kind of relaxed personally, and I fly all over the US with Delta, and I don't know if other airlines might be stricter, but the liquids have gotten a little lax. But if just because you make it out of the US with your liquids bag inside and with you're kind of cheating on the liquids. I was just going through Toronto to film with Chantal Niditude for season 9. She lives in Calgary, and this poor woman in security had taken her entire bag apart, and they were confiscating all of her really nice toiletries because she was like, well, I made it out of the US with this. And they're like, man, this is Canada. And that's what I'm talking about. Like different airports, different places, they have different rules, and they were just tossing all of her stuff away. And yes, I am TSA pre-check, I'm global entry, and that does help also. But I have found that in the US, it's getting more lax, but still, it's going to serve you best, especially if you're going to be country hopping, that you go with this small liquids bag. And in my toiletry bag, it snaps in, which is nice, but I keep it separated. I keep it in my personal item, so I'll get to in a second, because going through Paris this time, we were going from Ireland and Shetland, where we were filming, through Paris, through to Italy to film with Emma Facio. And in Paris, you have to, even though I have global entry, even though I'm Delta, Diamond, all that stuff, because I fly only Delta for the most part. Even so, I got to the Paris airport, Charles de Gaulle, and I had to go back through security, and it was required to go through a security check and take everything apart, and they wanted the liquid separated. So that meant I had to take it out of I had to open my carry-on, open my toiletry bag, show my stuff to the whole world, get the liquids bag out. There was a very angry Frenchman behind me who kept telling me I should have just checked, and I was reminded of this very important rule. So liquids in a small bag, it's a quart-sized bag. I really love this away one because it's really a thicker plastic, and I'm sure there's other places to find these. It stays secure if my liquids spill, but liquids separate. All right. Now, really important item, the personal item. So on a lot of airlines, you're allowed a carry-on that fits within the confines, and then a personal item. I have a couple of things that I do, but the trip that I just got back from, I used my Hohi bag. Now, Hohi, if you guys know Hohi, everybody knows Hohi, right? Amazing designer, and also they make amazing bags. She designed this bag. I'm holding up, maybe you can see small, I'll hold it up bigger later. Oh, hello, thank you, Sunny. This is my giant Hohi, my new Hohi bag, just came back from a 3-state filming trip. This is the Santa Cruz tote that they designed for us. So it has like it has a Knit Stars logo with the Hohi. It's got the outer pockets, it's gigantic. So I was able to make this work as a personal item. And then it was cool because they also designed a crossbody for us like this. And I used this as my little purse on the trip. So this was I broke from my normal procedure to test out my Hohi bag, and I can attest that it held it all, and it held up great, my laptop and everything. But so these are available, by the way, when you are part of a Knit Stars premiere season. We have yarn dyers and Hohi designs bags and yarn kits just for us. And you get to shop those. It's an exclusive thing as part of being part of a premiere season, FYI. Okay, but what I normally use before I tested this out is a backpack. And inside my backpack, because I'm not allowed 2 personal items, and I've been stopped many times trying to jet through that Delta line for getting this part, you can put a small purse. And I found I like to do that because once I get there, I don't want to drag my backpack everywhere. I still want to have like a little purse that I can carry with me and kind of like securely and not lug a backpack everywhere. I've done it both ways. I personally prefer to give up the space for the little bitty bag. Okay, so, but my backpack is just like from Office Depot or something. It's just a nondescript backpack. I wish I'd gotten a special color. And as a matter of fact, I just got in the mail. This worked out really great. I got my Away just came out with backpacks, and so I have my matching navy backpack. I'm holding it up, but I know you can't. You can see it only small, but they did the same monogram thing. And this was, I think it's important to have on. It's helpful on your backpack to have a strap that lets it slide down onto your carry-on because it makes it really easy to throw on there and get and go. And the one that I have has too big of a strap, and it's too hard to shove on there. So this is my new splurge. It doesn't have outer pockets. I wish it did, but it does have a great laptop pocket and small profile. So that's my personal item. Inside that goes my small purse. It goes always an extra pair of undies and some face wash because that's what I miss the most. That season 3 nightmare happened. And then inside goes my project bags, plural. Personally, we're going to get into this too. I bring at least 2 projects when I travel, and I'll explain exactly how I work that here in the next slide. But the important thing here is my project bags. I keep each project in a separate thin bag, like something that doesn't take a lot of space, like thin. It's not super bulky. I have one of them with me. And but even like cloth shopping bags work great. Like I have one for Free People I use a lot. Separate my bags, and then I put those towards the top so I can easily grab them once I get on the plane or in the car, and I could grab the project off the top and work with it. And then inside the project bag is my notions bag. So is this helpful? I'm hoping this is helpful. I see people point. Yeah, always bring the extra undies. That's a really important. Okay, good to know. Thank you guys. All right. So let's see here to the next slide. Let's break this down. Oh yeah, so here's my system in action. So you've got my Away suitcase on the upper right, my hanging toiletry bag that goes inside the suitcase, but with the liquids bag not in the suitcase. Liquids bag goes in the backpack, so I can easily yank it out if I have to. My little bitty purse, it's a fake Bluey, not a real one. It's a cute little one, but it's tiny. You can see how small profile. And then I've got my 2 projects bags. One had a crochet project, one had a knit project, and my little notions bag, and I'll show you what goes in that too. So this is how it works for me. So I got it down to a backpack that sits on top of the carry-on. It wheels nicely through the airport, no problem. I can get and access everything I need. I can get the suitcase up. It's not too heavy. That's part of why I went to the smaller one too. So not to have too much trouble to get the suitcase up if there's not someone nice around to help you do that. So this is my system in action. Now, let's talk what goes inside. Let's talk about those projects, right? Because we're all Yarnies here, right? So we know we always pack the projects first. Yarn goes first. Yarn goes first, right? My daughter likes to say we sit down to eat, phone goes first, phone eats first. But we all know it's the yarn. I probably spend 90% of my time on the projects and 10% at most thinking about my clothes. Yes, I know you guys can relate to this. So these are my tips for this. When I'm doing my projects, I have a separate bag for every project, and critical point, inside every bag, you need some kind of ID, an air tag if you're high tech, just a business card or sheet of paper or sticky note if you're low tech. I just heard a story a couple weeks ago. One of our followers, one of our Knit Stars season owners, left her project bag on the airplane and got off the airplane and got away, far away. And once you get off the airplane, they don't want you to get back on the airplane. And she didn't realize it. And she had stuck her boarding pass into that bag, thank goodness. And they called her up, and she was able to get reunited with her project before she went on with her trip. And that one hit me hard because I wasn't doing this before. So this is something I literally just learned from one of the people in our community. Huge tip, do not forget, every project bag, every bag that you have in the whole system, put some kind of identification in there. Now for me, when I'm traveling, I like one more mindful project that maybe has a little bit of something to it, and then one more mindless. So I just got back again from a production trip. I had Amba O'Brien's ochre cardigan, which I'm knitting with some dark colored linen, and it has a little lace to it. And it had like a lot of stockinette for when I got on the plane, and then some lace if I wanted to do something a little juicier. And then I actually had a crochet project. I just finished this little top by For the Frills. It's called the Blair crop top. And it was really nice actually crocheting on the plane. I've just picked it back up recently. I'd kind of taken a break and I really enjoyed that. So one mindful, one mindless. If you want to have extra projects, you can, but I have overpacked my yarn in the past. And the truth be told, most places I go will have a yarn shop somewhere. So I try to restrict myself to two that don't take a ton of space. And I put the yarn, well, we'll get into the yarn in a little bit. I'll explain about that. I do have a surprise for you guys. When we talk about mindless projects, I said I promised you a free pattern. So some of you may already know and have this pattern because it's a perennial favorite inside the Knit Stars world. It's one I designed years ago. It's this rising scarf that I'm wearing. It's a great mindless project. Garter stitch, occasional eyelets to keep it interesting. But it's a really simple travel project that I love. And we usually do a kit for them each year commemoratively. Last year it was Koigu. I have one with me. And then, oh no, this was like season 6 Koigu. This one was last year, season 8 Koigu. This year was Lindsay 5 Burrows Yarn did this amazing bright color kit for us. So I'm going to give you guys the rising scarf pattern. I've got a link for it. We'll stick in the chat. It'll also be in the follow-up slides and PDF, and we'll do probably a follow-up email after all this. Make sure you guys get all these goodies, okay? So cool. Free pattern, you're welcome. I hope you like it. It's a really great one for using up mini sets, advent sets, or even just a solid color. All right, couple more quick things before we check in. So really, I think a really helpful tip, I always cast on my projects before I go. I don't wait to cast on the plane. I like to have it cast on, and I like to get to what I call a cruise control point, okay? So you guys know what I'm talking about, right? You're doing some simple stockinette, you're doing some simple single crochet, it's just cruise control, right? You don't wanna have yourself in the middle of Emma O'Brien's lace work on the ochre cardigan if you can help it, right? On dark colored yarn. So get everything on a cruise control point, then you'll be ready to just pick it up and enjoy when you're in transit. And then I like to print my patterns. And the reason is so often I'll run into a Wi-Fi problem. I generally don't print patterns if I'm not traveling. I just work off my phone or my other devices. But I like to print them because sometimes it's really frustrating if you can't get your Wi-Fi working and you can't get something downloading. I've been in that too many times to count. So, and my eyes aren't the greatest. So I like to print it out and have paper patterns. It's just helpful. Plus, people are always asking, what are you making? What are you making? What are you making? And if they're nice about it, I will show them. And I like to have a picture of it. So I can go, here's this amazing thing I'm making. You should learn to knit or crochet, right? So I print my patterns. And then there was a great tip back in season 3, I think, Laura Nelkin, 3 or 5. But she had a great tip for, if you've got a chart, if you are going to do some lace or you need a chart. Again, I try to stay away from super complex stuff. Like even Gudrun Johnson, who's one of our stars in season 9, told me she does not take complex stuff when she travels. She's, amazing designer. She just does simple stuff. But I like to take that chart and put it on an index card. I think it's a great tip from Laura, even just a portion of the chart, maybe a simplified bit, and have an index card so you can have that handy, and that way you don't have to get the whole pattern out and be, flipping around a lot. So that's a good tip too. All right, how are we doing? Just quick midway check-in. Everybody good? Am I fire hosing you too much, or is this good information? Yes, socks are perfect travel knitting, Holly. I agree. I have a pair done except for the toe of the second sock. So close, so close. I love garments though. I can't help it. I'm a garment girl. I'm on a kick of making things I can make at the beach. Like this little, here's the crop top. If you guys couldn't see it earlier, it turned out actually really cute. I'm excited. That's this ugly seam in the back because I'm back at crocheting. Anyway, cute top. Yeah, I love this pattern. I'm actually going to cast on another one by that designer. All right, so let's see. Everybody's saying good, good, good. Okay, so congrats again for just showing up and giving yourself permission to shine. Let's take a breather together. I'm giving you guys permission to be here, to enjoy it, don't be distracted. We call it permission to shine. We're on a mission here to knit and crochet the world together. It's been our mission from day one. This year's actual theme is permission to shine. And I thought it would be fun if I could share, I'm going to share a couple sneak peeks, but first I'll just show you our season trailer so you can see who is teaching. And kind of, if you're new to Knit Stars, you haven't ever treated yourself to a masterclass, or you're not signed up for season 9, maybe you haven't done one in a year or two. Here's our trailer from season 9, Sunny.
Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. we ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? Your playing small does not serve the world. We are all meant to shine. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same.
All right, thank you. That is put together from our amazing videographer, cinematographer, Brad. And we actually I had a little fun story to tell with him this year. If you're already part of season 9, you know this happened. So we are filming this year, like I said. We have plans to film in Ireland, Italy, Shetland, points across Canada and North America and the United States. And we got to Aberdeen, Scotland, right at the edge of the North Sea, and the fog rolled into Shetland. And for 3 days, we schlepped our stuff over and went through security at Aberdeen. They were very nice, but it was a process because we had all Brad's equipment. And for 3 days, we went back and forth to the airport from the hotel, waiting. And then every day, the flights would get canceled. Shetland is, I dream for many knitters to go there. They have Shetland Wool Week. We had flown Gudrun Johnson, who lives in Massachusetts, but we were over to Shetland where her dad lives to tell part of her story. And we were filming with Hazel Tyndall, who has been dubbed the fastest knitter in the world. She's earned the title twice. So there's great stories behind that. I won't go all the way in. But the fog rolled in, and it became the only way that we could get to Shetland was not to fly. They said no more flights for 2 more days. The only way is the 12-hour ferry across the North Sea. And I looked at Brad, and Brad looked at me, and I was like, Brad, I can't do it. I just got over vertigo. And if I get, and we had been told by the locals, it was a super intense ferry ride across the North Sea. And we've been told, young, healthy people said, do not do it. Do not do it. I was like, Brad, I can't do it. And Brad said, we've come this far. I'll go. I will get the story. Brad is amazing. Brad is like, you guys, he's like an incredible human. He's filmed all over the world, and he films cinema quality stuff, just like what you saw. And he did it. He took the ferry, and he took the ferry back, and they had bark bags everywhere. It was an experience. He said, Shelley, it was best for you to not go. But this just shows you the commitment of this team. And everybody here. We have Sarah, the amazing editor who creates these lifestyle videos. So every Knit Stars workshop opens with a lifestyle video, like about 8 minutes long. It's a full-on documentary filmed on site with the star. And Hazel's, I just saw hers a couple of days ago. Oh my gosh. It just captures the personality. It's like you get to know the person. And then we film the workshops, and we have Doug who edits our workshops. It's a tiny team serving hundreds of thousands of people around the world. We are a tiny team, y'all. But it's amazing. It's my favorite thing to do, is tell the stories and bring them to you and inspire you. I saw Karen, you said the horror stories are making you nervous. Don't worry, Karen. It's okay. The horror stories, it's kind of like yarn, right? It's like having to frog. Like, it's part of the process going through. You have stories to tell when it's done. And I'm equipping you with lots of tips that will make it smooth for you. So don't worry, don't be nervous. I think it's the unknown that makes us scared, right? The first time we ski, which Gudrun is teaching in her workshop, the first time we do the scary things, and then we move through it. And that's part of what the adventure is all about, I think. Okay, so again, I said I would tell you more. Again, the offer, if you want to do this webinar only offer, knitstars.com/shine, use coupon code Emma Glows. I've got the URL in the bottom corner too of all of these in case you need it. And then webinar only bonuses, it'll be this whole slide deck and my travel checklist. Sonia, you want to come back to me and I can flash them the list real quick? I forgot to do that. There you go. This is my little quick travel checklist that I tried to make it. I even added a tracker, and we're going to get into once you get there, making during the trip, and then making once you get to the destination. And this is a tracker to help you, and I'll tell you what that's about here in a sec. Okay. All right. And we're going to get that list right. Yes. So if you join season 9 during this webinar, I think there were at least 1,000 people coming on this webinar today that are not part of season 9 yet. Yes. And then we'll make sure that all of the people who are enrolled in season 9, and I know there's a lot of you here too, will also get that checklist. Okay. And the slides. So I promise, and the pattern and all the goodies. All right. So now let's talk about your yarn, the most precious part, right? Let's get into how I pack my yarn. These are simple tips, but they're important. And I've done it every other way. I think the number one thing I've learned over the years, the mistake I've made it over and over, is kind of like packing too many clothes. I overpack my yarn. I take more than I think I can do. I think I'm going to be Rumpelstiltskin on that trip, and then I'm going to whip out my magical spinning wheel and make 1,000 projects. And I bring so much yarn, and not only does it take up too much space, but it could be like a little daunting because you look at it and go, and kind of deflating when you get back and you didn't make that much progress, right? So there's some mindset stuff here too. So for me personally, I have the active skein, and I have one, maybe max 2 extra skeins per project. I wind only one of them, and I have that extra wound one in the project bag. If I have unskein yarn, because I want to leave it unskein, it goes in my carry-on. I generally leave my yarn unskein as long as possible until I'm ready to work with it. And that gets me to the next tip. And I think they pack better too. They're easier and squishier to pack if they're not wound. So that's another reason I do that. Now, it's really important and helpful. I know there's probably a lot of you out there. There might even be some of you here that have never, ever wound a skein of yarn yourself. The reason is there's so much yarn these days. You know, I owned a yarn shop for 20 years. By the way, I was in branding and production before that, Brander, last name. And then I love storytelling, that I started a yarn shop. There's a whole story out there. You can read all about it. But anyway, I had a yarn shop for 20 years. And it took, we always wound yarn for everybody. We'd wind whatever yarn. If they wanted it wound, we wound all of it. Didn't charge or anything like that. But we also enabled people to not learn how to wind necessarily, right? And I realized that along the way. And I'm like, no, people need to be empowered and know how to hand wind and be really confident with it. And now I've actually gotten where I enjoy the winding. To me, it's part of the build up, like feeling that yarn in my hand. I get to know the yarn before I'm working with it. So I actually enjoy hand winding, and especially if it's mini skeins or stuff that's easier to wind. So I will leave my wind unwound. And then it's also like I'm taking a moment to mark my progress in the project when I'm like, I just got to the next ball of yarn. You know, it's like a little celebration. So we have a great link to share. This is from Andrea Mowry's workshop. It was Andrea Mowry's workshop that taught me, for Knit Stars, that taught me the way that I would still wind my yarn. And it's using your thumb as like a center, kind of like almost like a spindle. And you wind it. She has a really specific technique. It's very simple, but it's super effective. It works for everything. And I enjoy hand winding my yarn. So you can get to that too. Beth just dropped the link in the chat. It's also out there on YouTube. Fun fact, we're doing a lot more on YouTube these days. So you need to subscribe to Knit Stars on YouTube. We're starting to do something brand new called 19 questions, where we do one long take with each star and ask them 19 questions that they don't know what's coming. So yes, the links will be included in the slides. I will have them linked up right here. They got unlinked somehow for now because they were kind of distracting, but I will link them back up before they go out. So winding on the go, learn how to do that. And then you'll never be worried about how much you do or don't need to wind before you go on your trip. So also it's a nice thing to do. It's like kind of a mindless thing if you are working on a little more complicated project, to take that break and wind, maybe stretch a little bit. It's just like a nice little break. And then one last thing to bring in your yarn, and I ran into this. This is a recent learning for me. I should know. Always have a little small ball of extra yarn in like a bright color that you don't maybe use very often, like a high contrast color, because it's super handy for lots of things. The biggest being if you want to put yarn on hold. Like I got to the sleeve point on a sweater and I didn't have anything to put it on hold. I ended up using dental floss, which I'll get to here in a second. But that extra little ball of yarn, super handy. Like if you want to mark something in your work, it has tons of uses. Last night, casting on, I had to get some provisional, I do a provisional cast on with these stitches, and I needed a contrast color. Like it's just handy, and it doesn't take a lot of space. So yes, and Lifeline, thank you. And Lifeline, that's the other one, super handy for Lifeline. So just a little extra ball of yarn, an extra to have that we don't always think about. So that's my basic plan for my yarn. So let's see. Oh, and here on this next screen is the link. That's why I didn't give it to you. We put it on its own link. So this is the link to Andrea Mowry's How to Wind Yarn by Hand. Also in her workshop, she gave what I think is so far the best blocking demonstration that I use all the time. I call it the burrito method. I used it to block this crochet top a couple days ago. Her workshop is amazing. Big surprise, right? Andrea Mowry. All of our stars workshops are amazing. So, and they're timeless and they are, they're not sequential. A lot of times people think, well, I have to go back and do season 1 and do them in order. It's not like that. Each season is its own unique experience, and they don't build on one another in that sense. They're timeless. All right, let's talk about needles. You ready for this? All right, here's my needle system. Still helpful? Still good? Still with me? Oh, I almost forgot. After this one, I'll do a prize. I almost forgot. I'll do my first prize. Okay, number 1 rule, interchangeables are your friend. Interchangeable needles changed the travel game for me because I used to stress so much about what needles to bring. And I would bring, like, if I had a pattern that called for a 7, I would bring, like, 5 size needles on either side of the 7. I had just giant tangles of needles to deal with. I always worried that was going to freak out security, and just it made a mess. And when they came out with interchangeables, I was like, wow. So I have a bunch of interchangeable sets. I own the yarn store, right? My favorite are my Chow Goos. I actually have 2 Chow Goose sets because for some reason, the 7s and 4s are always in use. So I have 2 sets. I bring 1 interchangeable set because then I know if I need to switch, like, to a smaller needle, the amber sweater I'm working on goes down a size with the lace. Then I've got everything I need. Or if I'm swatching and I want to play around, swatching also a great thing to do on a plane on a trip. Because it's just so zen. And I know some of you don't love swatching, but you can learn to love swatching. Every knit star I've ever met, I think, loves the swatch. So anyway, interchangeables are your friend. So an interchangeable set is where it starts. Here's the trick. I have heard recently of needles being confiscated in other countries. It does happen, y'all. Again, it's up to their discretion at a certain point to decide. And we all know that the Chow Goo set and a lot of interchangeable metal sets look like pretty much an arsenal, right? I mean, it's kind of a shocker that we can get on the plane with these things, but you can. But here's how to safeguard yourself a little bit against maybe a rule you weren't ready for, or an overzealous worker or whatever. Anyway, in whatever situation, if you're traveling maybe in a high security area. So I take my interchangeable, whatever project is going, like the worst nightmare is, it'd be horrible for them to steal your needles, but the worst nightmare is they would make you pull a needle out of your work, right? You've got your 400 stitches cast on for your sweater in the round, and they make you rip it out. So you unscrew the interchangeable tips. I'm sure most of you know how these work, but the prep work you're going to do is unscrew your tips, put stoppers on the tips, and so your work is on hold essentially. And then you're going to take your tips and you're going to put them in another location in your bag. I like pencil cases for this, the old-fashioned roll-up pencil case, because you can have them each in their own little slot and they look much safer. Like, it'd be a little bit harder for you to grab them and stab somebody, so they just look a little less scary. So if you put them in a pencil case, or you don't have that, you can just put stoppers on all the tips, separate them out, and it just looks a lot less scary. And, like, at worst, if they took your needle tips, they're not ripping them out of your knitting or your crochet. Well, crochet, it's not as scary, right? You just have the one little loop. But that is really, really helpful. And I hear over and over that that's probably the number 1 tip. I hear it from everybody I know who travels internationally. Then, as a last ditch thing, and really I haven't had to employ this, but I have heard of people that have. And to me, it's worth, again, a little bit of space for a little bit of peace of mind. And that is, I have a self-addressed return package that sits in the bottom of my carry-on. And it is, you can do DHL, FedEx, UPS. You want to use an international shipper, ideally, and it's self-addressed return package that can come back to you, so that if they felt like they had to take something away from you, you could hand them that envelope. And there is a chance, I've heard of kind security people employing that package to get it back to you. So it's just a little peace of mind. Okay. Like, yeah, great tip, right? Yes. Y'all, I've gotten so much from, again, so many trips. When I think about how many trips, it's a lot. And then you expand that by our whole worldwide community, and we've all experienced a lot of this. And then for me, I will go ahead and pack. If I pack, I have packed 2 interchangeable sets. That really kind of feels like overkill. No pun intended. But I go ahead and pack an extra of a needle in case, because I have dropped a needle tip accidentally down the airplane seat, and they don't like you digging around in those seats. It can cause issues. So I do bring 1 extra of my critical needle for that project. doesn't take up as much room as a whole interchangeable case, but I will have that one extra needle. If I lose it somehow, the tip falls down, you know, I have a car that the needle tips can get lost, and that's happened to me in the car. I like to have that second needle for the car. So that's my needle system. Let's do a prize. Can we do that? Come back to me. So I've got here, I have a Yarniverse kit. So that's our membership. We have a membership in addition to our prime thing we do are produce these seasons each year, but we have a membership for our seasons and a big community. And we do make longs 4 times a year. This is a Yarniverse kit, the most recent one we did. We have this amazing yarn dyed by at Haynes House. And it includes a field guide from MDK. They're our yarn partners delivering our kits this year. And then it even has beads for a beading project. And there's a pattern from Jeanette Sloan for who was in Knitstar season 6 and is an amazing human. And this kit is going to go to one of the gazillions of commoners that we've had so far. Who's picking the winner? Beth, Sunny?
There we go. I was muted. Sorry. I did a random choosing. It's Tanya Bridge.
Awesome. Congratulations, Tanya.
Bridge.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah. And there's probably Yarniverse members in here too, if you guys want to raise your hand and tell people what you think about it. We think it's pretty magical. You get access to 50 previous workshops from previous seasons, all organized into learning tracks for wherever you are on your journey. And then we have a really great community, lots of amazing things. And then this year we decided that when we would go, I'm going on these trips, I decided to go to every filming. And of course I did make it to Shetland, but in addition to the workshops that we're filming, we're spending more time with, oh, please don't drill, guy. Please don't drill. I see the guy that's drilling. Please don't drill. Anyway, so in addition to the workshops, we're spending more time with each star to film longer, like more content for the workshops and also bonus content for our Yarniverse membership. So when Carol's workshop rolled out this past month, we are doing separate content with her, talking with her about frogging, making other makers that she follows and how she styles things. And then she comes on live on the Yarniverse. We're doing that with every star. So it's like Yarniverse pairs really great with whatever season is going on. So that's something you can check out too if you don't already know about it. That's what the Yarniverse is. And also, I love the name Yarniverse because we've always been knit and crochet, and a lot of times crocheters feel like because our name is Knit Stars, that means we don't have crochet. We 1,000% have crochet. We have a lot of crochet going on in this season. I wholeheartedly believe everyone should know how to do both. You deserve to know how to do both, and that we are all Yarnies at the end of the day, whether you do one or both. We're all Yarnies. So flash of the prize that's coming up later. That'll come up at the end, but congratulations, Tanya. Okay, now let's talk about your notions bag. I've got mine here. I'm gonna cut to it. So in my notions bag, okay, again, I have a mega notions bag that holds everything that I might ever need, but that's on my travel one. I fit my travel one in this little 4-inch pouch. And these are what I consider the essentials. These are on that packing list too, just to make sure you don't forget your critical items, okay? So number 1 is scissors or snips or dental floss or both. Around the US, I have no problem with my little inexpensive manicure scissors, no problem. But just last year, I had my favorite scissors taken at the Sydney airport in Australia. And I have found there are still a lot of airports around that don't like the scissor game. That is a flag, even if they are cool with needles. In the Sydney airport, they even had a built-in little hole where I went through the luggage, the screening, and I watched them stop and check everything, pull everything apart. And they were very nice, but they, like Australians are, but it was literally like a little black hole, like Game of Thrones down the moon hole, there go my favorite scissors. And it was so sad. I'd had them for like 20 years. So I recommend inexpensive manicure scissors, or even safer, or like those little puppy snips, little tiny snips or thread cutter that are made for that purpose. And here's where the amazing dental floss comes in. Not only is it great for a lifeline or to put stitches on hold, like I mentioned earlier, but it has that cool little cutter, and you can use it as a thread cutter. It will work I've found it to work even on my linen yarn. So that is a great little tip. Plus, it's nice to floss your teeth. And I have been known to floss and brush in a Delta lounge or airport bathroom. So I have no shame with that. Something about brushing your teeth on a flight or after a long flight that just helps you feel fresh. And I'm a foster. So number 2 is a rescue hook. So I have a small crochet hook that can work for if I drop a stitch. I find that super helpful, or whatever your favorite tool is for doing that. A crochet hook to, if you, I mean, that's just a must for me, always in my bag. Stitch markers, I prefer a bright color, a locking marker, and I actually hook it on to my work because it's so easy to lose stitch markers. I bet you I've lost 1,000 down Delta plane seats and car seats and train seats. I've lost so many stitch markers. It's just like, we just leave a trail of them everywhere, don't we? So I like the plastic clover, inexpensive stitch markers, but you got to have some. If you don't, you can use that waste yarn. There are other things to wing it. We like to say knitters find a way. There are things that you can do, but that's a must-have for me. I usually have a cable needle. If I, for some reason, don't have a cable needle, there's also great alternatives. A swivel stick on a plane works really well. There's a whole bunch of different things you can use in place of a cable needle. If you're in a bind, a double pointed needle works really well for that too. Then of course I always have a tape measure and a needle sizer. So the tape measure is great, but I like to also be able to double check my needle size in case my interchangeable tips got out of place. And I have a little tiny cute one that I use. And then there's this really cool tool from Cocoa Knits. Julia Weisenberger from Cocoa Knits was in season 1 of Knit Stars, one of the first ones to say yes. And she has this cool thing. If y'all haven't seen it, let me take off my watch so I can show you. It's called a Maker's Keep. And it's like got a little magnetic square. Let me show you. Thank you, Sunny. I forgot about this. And it's like this, and it has a magnetic square, and you can stick your cable needle. Look like Wonder Woman. That looks like a weapon a little bit, but your metallic stitch markers will go on here. A lot of all your metal stuff that you want to keep handy and you don't want to lose on the plane, on that armrest or down the seat. This is really handy for car or plane or train. Yep, Maker's Keep. And they make all kinds of amazing, I also love their metal stitch markers. I think they're really pretty. They have locking and not locking. And they have these and then all kinds of other things that you can, like metal tools, so you can have everything in one place. Those are pretty cool. That's a Maker's Keep. Yes, hopefully helpful. All right, so like all that time, almost a whole hour on yarn and projects, but that's as it should be, right? So let's move along to what happens after the projects. Oh, there's my notions bag. Oh, how fun. Sunny added a little animation. There's one of my notions bags, my needle sizer, what goes in. Little tin has my stitch markers separated so they don't get lost in there. I actually have 2 needle sizers in that. Oh, and darning needles. I forgot darning needles. Darning needle, important, definitely, especially if you're doing embroidery, like Carolyn Bloom is going to teach in season 9. I promise you that workshop alone is worth the whole price of admission. My mind was completely blown filming with her in Sleepy Hollow, New York last week. What she is doing, no one has done. I have not seen done anywhere, and she's been like heads down since the pandemic doing this thing. Y'all, it is mind blowing. I promise you that workshop is going to be season 9 is off the chain. Okay, let's see. So packing after the projects. Oh, did I cover the in the middle part? I maybe skipped over the in the plane part. No, this is right. Okay. So after the projects, my wardrobe. I'll try and go quickly here because I want to try and end real close to the top of the hour. I have what I call a capsule handmade wardrobe. I have a couple of things that I always go with me because I try to wear my makes on the road, especially if I'm going to be on camera for Knit Stars, right? So I have a couple. I have like kind of my very favorite sweater is a beige. It's called Lizzie by Georgie Hallam, and it's a linen sweater that I can wear everywhere, even living in Florida. I've got a bandana style cowl so it doesn't fall off, but a lightweight scarf. And then if I'm going anywhere cold, I'll have a simple hat. And as a matter of fact, I'm so into this idea, we decided for our next 4 Yarniverse kits, we're going to build a handmade wardrobe, a capsule wardrobe. So we're going to have a scarf you can wear everywhere, an outerwear piece, a t-shirt or tank, and a hat, so that you can just have your go-to and you throw it in your bag. Next, I have that's the cornerstone of my travel. Next, I have minimal ready to wear. I always, in fact, my recent trip, it was a big win. In all 10 days, 3 states, I wore everything that was in my suitcase because I had minimal ready to wear. I am a huge fan of the Lululemon or any brand of unstinkable leggings and sports bras. A lot, fitness stuff has come a long way. There's the drill. Yeah, I don't know if y'all can hear that, but I am going to let my people know that, let We have drilling going on, and they promised that wouldn't happen. Yeah, okay, so let's see if we can stop that. Hopefully it doesn't bug you guys too much. So leggings and sports bras, those are two things I'm never sorry I put in my suitcase, and I always wish I actually had more. The biggest space killers are shoes and outerwear. So for me, I love that it's trending now to wear sneakers with dresses and skirts. So I always have a pair of sneakers that goes with everything. And then I have maybe one pair of flats that are like flat sandals if I decide I need to get a little dressed up, but that are comfortable to walk in. I'm sure you could go on and on for good travel shoes. We always have lots of conversations happening about that inside the Yarniverse and Knit Stars communities. And then outerwear, I like, it's if you don't need it and you can get away with your sweater and your scarf, that will keep you really warm. Outerwear will take up so much space. So like skiing, I know is a challenge. If I have to do it, I really rely on my knitwear that takes up less space to keep me warm, like a hat and a scarf. And, you know, if I have to have a down jacket in there, I have to, or if I'm going to Shetland, I need one heavy sweater, but if I do that, I've got to cut down the rest to make it work in my carry-on. I do find it is worth layers. Yes, layers. Layers is where it's at. So that pair of leggings, when I was in Canada, we were near Lake Louise. It was quite chilly. I had my leggings on under a pair of pants, and it worked great. And I am a fan of giving up a little space to one of those roll-up jewelry cases, because it can, and I do have to be on camera a lot in these locations, but just changing the jewelry can change the whole look. So just dedicate a little bit of space to some jewelry and wrap it up really well so it doesn't get broken. It's worth it to me. So I usually will take a jewelry case. Yes, windbreaker is great. A lot of times, thank you, Ruth, a windbreaker, I have a super thin windbreaker that I'll also sometimes take on the plane as an alternative to my sweater, although my trusty sweater is my most common item. So this is my general guideline for my packing. I basically have it down to a system, and I just do not waver from the system. So I just throw it all in there, and it's so great. So here's my packing complete. There's my beige sweater, my little shift scarf by Andrea Mowry, you can see like workout wear. You can see 2 skeins of yarn. That was to make my top. Shoes, sneakers, sandals, workout wear, my toiletry bags stuck in there, undies, everything's in there. So that's my last trip, how it was packed. So that is in here too, and hopefully that helps y'all get an idea of that it is possible. It's really just a commitment. I think I would love to save you the horror story and to just make the commitment up front, because it also makes it so much easier and faster to get in and out of an airport when you don't have to check bags. You can just zip on out the door when you get there. And with shorter and shorter layovers these days, I mean, I've been on some Delta flights where there's like 37-minute layover. It's just helpful to be able to have it with you. And then when you arrive, you don't have to sit and wait at the carousel. And maybe I just still have PTSD from that carousel back in Amsterdam. All right, let's move on. Okay, now part 2, these next 2 parts are very short. Part 2, Delta had a great line a few years back on one of their like in-flight videos they play when you're getting ready to take off. They said, "Plane time is sacred time." And this was a mind shift for me. I used to be really scared of flying. There were years and years I did not fly. And the first time I flew for Knit Stars, it was over the ocean. It was a white knuckler for me. But this was a shift in my thinking. I think of travel time for knitters, it is sacred time. You kind of can get in a bubble and just really enjoy the process. And so these are my tips to help you during the trip. Once you've done all the hard work up front packing well, these are my tricks for making in transit. Okay, number 1, be easy on yourself. Don't make yourself a deal that you're going to get X number of inches done or X number of balls knit on the flight. Think of it as miles and smiles, in terms of miles and smiles, not inches and grinches. That's what I say to myself, right? Enjoy the journey. So important. And it is. I mean, a long flight, I relish it now. I get annoyed with super short flights because I want time to sit and enjoy my project. This I referred to earlier, attach a stitch marker to your work. So you don't have to, if you don't have a maker's keep or you don't want to fuss with that, just hook them onto your work and then they're always there to grab and use as needed. Avoid the middle seat if at all possible. I will sit 10 rows farther back to get an aisle or a window because I have been in situations with, they call it man spreading. I don't know if that's PC, but I've been in situations with men and women, all genders that spread and take over those elbow areas. And it can be really difficult and unpleasant to work with this kind of situation where you're working very narrowly with your elbows hugged into your sides. So really recommend, if you can, get that window or aisle seat if your airline allows you to choose. It's worth going farther back, in my opinion. I like to queue up videos and audiobooks, and I just will make a plug here that Knit Stars workshops are a great thing to watch on a plane. It's okay to actually just sit and watch and learn and not make. You can just enjoy and not be making the entire time. And it's a nice, your brain is actually learning while you're watching videos on YouTube or with Knit Stars, or, you know, your brain is working and your brain is learning, just like sports people watching videos, you know. So give yourself those breaks, especially on a really long flight. Alcohol at altitude, just a cautionary tale. We have a pattern from my yarn store called Knit One, Drink One. And I'm all about, you know, relaxing with whatever your favorite beverage is, whether it's tea, coffee, whatever. But remember, at altitude, alcohol does have a stronger effect. So take it from me and take it easy on that when you're knitting something especially more complicated or even not complicated, because you don't want to get to the other end and have a big mess on your hands. Raise your hand in the chat if you've experienced that. It's okay. It's a safe space. Actually, I read something recently that Bloody Marys are like the #1 drink ordered on an airplane because there's something about at altitude, the saltiness is like really appealing to our taste buds. Fun fact. Also, if you're in a car, on a train, on a plane, you can really get in the zone and look down at your work the whole time, use your little light. But if you're in a car, on a train, I really like a simpler project for that because you need to remember to look up. And if you are one of those people that I bet a lot of you are, that you can knit stocking knit without looking down at your work and keep your eye on the horizon, it will help you avoid headaches. I mean, it's not medical advice, it's my own experience. Avoid headaches, and even nausea has happened to me if I get in too big of a zone and I forget to look up. So really important. And as you're planning your projects for a long car, train ride, think about that, something that you can look up as you're working. So those are my tips for in transit. Okay, now I said I had a surprise sneak peek. I had a little sneak peek from season 9 that even the season 9 folks I don't think have seen yet, because we have been filming earlier this year. So I've got a little peek that Sunny put together from inside their homes and such. Yeah, okay. Oh, we're playing. We don't have sound here, but here's some of our stars from season 9. Just a few little glimpses. This is Carol in Ireland. I love these shots. We were in Cork, and a lot of you, if you're in season 9, again, you already have access to her workshop, her suite. One of the best things about Knit Stars is I get to pet all the pets. It's amazing. Emma had cats that were beautiful, and I'm allergic to cats, but like some reason didn't bother me. This is her workshop's getting ready to happen. Here's Chantal. You might know her from her famous sleeve sweater. She's teaching the basics of beginner garment knitting that applies to everybody. And here's Gary Boston. Gary Knits, Gary Rides. He's teaching on how to knit for good or crochet for good and put your own fundraiser together. So a really interesting and amazing workshop shot in Palos Verdes, California. And then we have Gregory Stitch, the fabulous Gregory Stitch, who does couture crochet and was a professional dancer. We filmed on site with him in Atlanta, the one place I can get to with a single flight on Delta. And there's Hazel Tyndall. Her workshop is dropping early, coming up, I believe next month. That was shot in Shetland by the amazing Brad, and some little sheepies from her area. She's, again, the fastest knitter in the world, has been dubbed that, and she's teaching Shetland lace and color work. So there's a sneak peek for you. So, all right. Okay, one more time with the sign up stuff. Has anyone signed up for season 9 while we've been on? Let me know in the chat. I'm going to be so excited. Oh, yes. Yay. Thank you. Amazing. Amazing. You guys, if you're here, you probably have known about Knit Stars for a while. You maybe have bought yarn from our store. You maybe have been in one of our clubs. Our premier seasons are where it's at. It's what I love to do the most in the world. And I firmly believe every knitter and crocheter deserves the experience. And each year we all pour our whole heart and soul into it, along with every star, to make it an amazing experience. And I really think this year is knocking it out of the park already. So if you haven't done it yet, when Me and the World and Me and the Stars, you also can go through the links in their own Instagram bios, and that way they get a commission. So keep that in mind. It's part of my mission also to raise how much the best in our industry are paid and compensated for their very, very hard work. It is a hard job, you guys. It is hard. I know it looks glamorous. It is hugely challenging to be even at the top of your design game in this industry. So we appreciate everybody and being part of our mission, and excited for season 10 too for next year. Already working on that. Okay, let's talk about when you get there. We're getting close to the end here, and then we'll have our last prize. So here's Vera Välimäki from that Finland trip. She's so amazing. She taught on stripes. These are my tips for when you get there. And this is maybe the most important part. It's kind of the overlooked part, but just remind yourself, you're there, you get a lot of making time, but you're also there to make memories. So ultimately, you want enjoyment to be the goal. And hopefully you've picked that up from the tips I've given you so far. I'm trying really hard to remove the stress for you. And remember, it is the enjoyment, it is the adventure, and it is the journey. So one thing I like to do when I get to a new place, to a hotel, to an unfamiliar place, to, our first location, in my hotel room, I'll make a little setting, or the Airbnb or wherever I am, I make a little setting that I think of as my little self-care space or altar, where I pick out a place where it might even just be the bed. I mean, sometimes we're in teeny rooms, but it might be a chair, and I kind of arrange the lighting and arrange my stuff there so that I create a little space where I will make time for making, because for me, it really helps me center and relax. And if I'm nervous about what are the things we're about to film or how it's going to go, it just helps me center to sit down with my yarn. And I'm sure a lot of y'all feel that way. If you're here, you probably know what I'm talking about. I like to choose a daily time. Like for me, it can be first thing in the morning. I might get in a little workout, do a little journaling, and then sit down and try to get a little making time in. Again, focusing not on the inches or the progress or how much I'm getting done, but just making time for this as part of my self-care routine. One super hot topic is yarn shopping. We all know on vacation that shopping can be a great part of the journey. So a few tips, and I didn't put them here, but I'm going to give you. Number one is ask your community. So like our Yarniverse community, they're always asking in our season 9 community, hey, I'm getting ready to go to Amsterdam. Where are the shops I need to go to? Hey, I'm getting ready to go to this more obscure place. Where do I need to go shop? So planning out some yarn shopping can definitely add to the joy. When I do that, I'm always looking for, if I'm going to shop abroad or outside of my market, there's not much yarn where I am. And I used to own a yarn store, so I'm obviously obsessed with yarn. So I will look for a shop, and I will look for a locally, like something that has a local vibe to it. That's like a souvenir. So I remember that place. Something with a fiber that's local to the area is really amazing. And then I always buy more skein than I think I'll need. Really important. And another good reason to not overpack on the way, so you have room to bring some back. I always ask if they ship, because if possible, most people these days will ship. So I always check to see if they'll ship, and that goes not just for yarn, but other things you buy. You can exercise the shipping option. Don't forget, that's always, in many cases, an option. And then remember that one skein can go a long way. One skein of lace weight made the ranunculus I'm wearing in this picture. I've made 2 of these from single skeins. And so, one good size skein of lace or fingering, you can get a lot out of it if you're going to buy a hand dye. But usually I will buy at least 2, especially if it's a hand dye. So those are my tips for buying when you're traveling. And then make sure that you have time. You, again, prioritize immersion in the culture. That's why you're there. So make time for that. And a great way that you can do that, well, first I'll tell you, my favorite quote of all time is by Goethe. And I always tell my stars this as I'm finishing up a shoot with them. We become fast friends on every one of these throughout the process leading up to, during, and after. And once you're in the Knit Stars family, you're a star for life, we like to say. And but the quote by Goethe, and I'll paraphrase it, but it's basically, the world is so empty if we think of it as just mountains and rivers and cities. But to have one friend here and there, one person who thinks and feels with us, it makes the world an inhabited garden. So I like to think of it as as building my garden when I'm traveling and just having those people here and there, the souls who are like-minded and thinking with feeling with me. So I try to take that feeling with me. And you can get that feeling when you watch Knit Stars workshops. If you've done them, you know what that feeling is like. And I recommend, we actually put together a list of all the cities we filmed Knit Stars in. If you're going to a city, like let's say you're going to Amsterdam, watch Stephen West season 1 or Nancy Marchant season 2 or Mika John season 8, where we filmed in Amsterdam, to get a little sense of the city. It can help you feel a little grounded in the city before you go. So we put together this handy list of all the cities. This list blows my mind. All the cities where we have filmed our Knit Stars lifestyle videos. It's here, I think, on the next slide. Sunny. Uh-oh. Sunny took a bathroom break. There we go. Here they are. So it's pretty awesome to look through the list with all the cities and countries that we filmed in. And yeah, so keep this handy list and watch some Knit Stars videos if you're in the Yarniverse or you own all the seasons. If you're what we call an all-star and you have them all, you've got access to all of these little travel videos that you can feel like you know somebody in each of these cities. So that's pretty cool, right? Pretty awesome to look at. This is like my life work, you guys. I'm such a believer in it. Okay, I'm gonna wind up with a few more quick helpful tips, and then we're gonna go to our last prize. We are a little over, not too bad. Few other just handy tips. Bring a yarn or a travel journal. Bring a journal and pens and washi tape. When you start out your trip, take pictures of your progress of each of your things at its cruise control point, and journal through your trip. There's nothing better than that. I've started to practice recently from the book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And she has you do the morning pages, 3 pages of longhand every day. Sounds like a lot. It's become one of my favorite rituals. I love to bring a packet of soak, just wool wash, one that's not going to leak. You can put it in another plastic bag if you feel the need. But I bring a package of soak in case I want to block on the road. That has happened. I finish a project and I want to block it, or if I want to wash out like unmentionables. But my very favorite alternate tip in the whole world is use the hotel laundry service if they've got one. But as I learned in Italy, Mallory and I, we were filming with Emma, and we had trotted down to the desk with our bags of laundry, excited to get fresh laundry, and they were closed for the weekend. So a lot of hotels are closed for the weekend, but using those laundry services can really expand or reduce how much you have to pack if you know that they're going to have a laundry service on site. A hack that I just learned last week, because I don't sleep great if there's any kind of light. I really need a dark room to sleep in. So you can use the little clippy hangers in your closet. If most hotels will have some clippy hangers, close your curtain shut all the way with the clippy hanger so it doesn't have that annoying gap and the sun doesn't come pouring through. And then Brad on my trip also said he will bring, he has the same issue, and he brings blue electrical tape and puts it over things like the alarm clock or other lights that are annoying and distracting your sleep, because sleep is really important to help you get the most enjoyment out of your trip. And then make time to meet up with other Yarnies. I all the time hear these amazing stories of people seeing other Yarnies with their Knit Stars bags or their Hobie bags, right, in international airports, and they know, oh, you're a Yarnie too. Like, let's talk yarn. And I've heard of lifelong friendships happening over those Knit Stars bags. So if you see somebody knitting or crocheting, say something to them, get to know them, tell them about your experiences. And, you know, that's what makes the world go around, is making those friends around the world. So is that what I just said doesn't make a lot of sense, but hopefully you got it. So that is, this is winding up our amazing webinar. Hopefully you guys have gotten a lot out of it. I'd love to see the chat flying. It's going to be a hard task to pick a second winner, but let's pick a winner for this hedgehog fibers. By the way, Beata, this is our second time going to Cork with Carol Feller. We went to Cork, Ireland, back in season 2 with Beata Jezik of Hedgehog Fibers. So can we pick a winner for this? Thank you guys so much. You guys have been awesome in the chat. Okay, who is it, Beth?
The winner is Laura D. Simone.
All right, Laura, congratulations. And thank you everybody else who has shown up for yourself for the last hour and 15 minutes. Close. We made it. Next month, we might try another kind of webinar. We're thinking one on how to knit or crochet faster. That'd be interesting to you guys. If you have ideas for webinars, send them our way. Email us at hello@knitstars.com. If you have any questions at all about season 9, Yarniverse, anything else I've talked about, let me know. Again, if you have joined during this webinar, I'll give you an extra 15 minutes to join season 9 if you haven't already. We'll check the timestamp. But and then all you guys who already signed up, and even as an early bird, maybe, thank you so much for your ongoing commitment to yourself first and foremost, and commitment to our mission. We appreciate it so much. Without you guys, this doesn't exist. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you to Beth and Sunny and Mallory and Gigi, who are all in the panel helping out in behind the scenes. And I hope you guys got a lot out of it. Let me know, write me and let me know that it was helpful to you. I'd love to hear your feedback and what you might like to see in future webinars, okay?
And
so go forth.
If you want
Yes?
a prize, please email hello@knitstars.com and let us know that you won the prize, and we'll ship it out to you. Sorry.
Yes, give us your, yes, no, I'm glad you said that. I usually remember, my mind is mush, but there was so much here. But yeah, email and give us your current shipping address where you want us to ship. And I actually will be the one shipping it. So I'll ship it from right here to you. Okay. So thank you guys so much. I hope you had a blast and have an amazing rest of your weekend. Thank you. Thank you.